Hello and welcome to John and Dave react to Coronation Street Fire Week,
Hi guys.
featuring John.
And Dave.
And this week we're going to talk all about Fire Week.
Fire Week. It's the big week this week. 9 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
And wow.
What an episode tonight,
I was
Dave.
actually blown away.
I wasn't blown away just yet because there's not any fire, there's no backdraft. Whoa.
Whoa. Stop that there. Anyway, yeah, it was quite a big shock actually.
Well, I don't think there are any shocks tonight, Dave. I think you're being a bit over the top with the word shock there.
I'm going to make my reason why there was a big shock tonight. We saw Tracy tell Liz. Now, sorry, that was a bit of a spoiler.
We should have done a spoiler warning.
We should have done a spoiler warning.
Oh.
But yeah, so basically Tracy told Liz about her and Tony. Their affair which had been happening. How long would that be happening?
We don't know, because we've only started watching in the last 2 weeks.
We've only just started watching, but we can assume it was quite a long time.
There's been a lot of progress with Tony's relationships with the Barlow family. You see Steve looking happy that Liz and Tony are together. There was a nice little speech from Steve, actually, about how great Tony was. Yeah.
So we gather Tony's well respected, and that's why we're going to see the rest of this week kind of maybe a bit of a I don't know, maybe a change in the
dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you'd expect that with Liz finding out that Tony's been cheating on her. Yeah. With Tracy Barlow, of all people, someone who we actually recognise. Yeah.
So that was pretty much what happened. Oh no, there were a few other storylines in
Should we go through the other storylines as well now?
Yeah, we'll set them out now. So, do you want to explain?
Well, we had Kevin Webster, with the woman that he's with.
Yeah.
And there's that whole thing with Kevin's son.
Yeah, now this was quite interesting. Now, obviously, it's Molly, who died in the tram crash in 2010. Yeah. So that was quite... So what we saw now was the kid being offered a place in nursery, was it?
Yes, it was nursery.
And basically, we saw the mum, not the mum, but like the stepmum to be type thing. She at the end of the episode,
she was going to take him to Hull.
Hull, which
is further north than Manchester and quite far away. So that was quite a development.
Now this will be interesting to see what happens, because obviously it's the big week this week. Yeah. So we gathered that this is going to this has been set out on the Monday and play through till the Friday. So we can gather that this might be...
I just want to get this in now, Dave, before we go any further. I feel like this storyline has been a bit ill-judged. And I feel like they've forgotten the whole Carol storyline in 2000, where Kevin's wife went mental because she lost her child. Yeah. And I feel like this is a very similar storyline. But
I'm also going to jump on that. There was a whole kind of Ashley and Claire, and there was also, if I remember rightly, a kidnap storyline there. Yeah. So this isn't something new. But it will be interesting to see what happens and what they bring new to it. Because I don't think we're going to see a repeat. I reckon there's definitely going to be new material.
Well, I think it's a very interesting storyline. So other storylines that were on tonight: the family whose name we don't know.
Yeah, the unknown family. They were in it tonight, and we saw the dad, kind of the...
Well, it's not the dad, because the dad seems to be the guy who's with the mum.
But then, is he then their son? And then
the other guy's...
the younger one, which confused us a little bit, because obviously we haven't watched the show.
Yeah, in about 5 years.
So, yeah. It was kind of a... With the whole Leanne...
asking to marry him thing.
Yeah. Which... It'd be interesting again to see how that plays out throughout the week, because he's now been told that, well, his son's now said it's okay, you can marry Leanne. Yeah. But it would be interesting to see whether he stays to that and whether that plays out later on.
I think we have to do the last storyline, which was a featured storyline tonight, which was Carla and Michelle, featuring a little bit of the Tracy.
Yeah.
In which Carla... there seems to be a little bit of tension brewing between Carla and Tracy after Carla decided to buy the Rovers.
I think one of the big example of that would actually be when they when towards the end of the episode, Tracy stole the keys from Carla's bag.
I know, that was very well set up with Carla mentioning that the keys were in the back room. And it just so happened that that was one of the only places that Tracy could get into in Coronation Street. But let's put all that aside and just realise how dramatic this is and how much this is going to mean for the future of Fire Week.
Well, before we do that, I've just had a quick realisation.
Yeah?
Why didn't Carla go and pick the bag up when she was there with Liz?
I mean, that makes no sense.
That does make no sense, because surely she would have picked the bag up.
You mean...
Because we knew that it was already there.
Let's be honest here. Liz was going through a large amount of emotional trauma at this time.
Yeah, again,
She seemed to be dealing not very well with the whole Tony bit going having a bit of an affair thing.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see, because she really wants this to be Steve's big day. Steve's been going through depression, from what we can gather.
Yeah. It's been quite a big storyline. Yeah. Played out for quite a while.
And also, we've got a little bit of an update on Lloyd, who seems to still be on a boat in Norway.
I haven't read into it, but do you think Lloyd's going to turn up before the wedding?
I think it would be silly for him not to.
I think he should. If he was really trying, he'd be back by now.
I think we don't know the timescales in Coronation Street.
We don't.
But I really do reckon it doesn't take that long to get back from Norway.
I agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's gonna. They've set everything out for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Now.
So I think that was a good intro episode. I don't think it did enough for me in some aspects, as we will discuss through some of our later features.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was a decent enough intro episode.
Definitely, yeah. So that kind of brings us on to one of our main segments, which is the Norris scale. Do you want to introduce it?
Right, so the Norris scale is possibly the best idea we've ever had.
Yeah.
It's a scale which describes how much Norris there has been in that episode and how crucial to the episode Norris Cole of the cabin has been.
So, let's roll the titles for that one.
So, would you mind expediting this process?
Wow!
So we've actually given that one 0 because there was no mention of Norris.
No.
No appearance from Norris. Nothing to do with Norris at all.
But in these situations, we kind of came to the realisation that we could just talk about how the episode would have been improved if Norris was in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I personally think we needed a bit more Norris in that scene where Steve's going into the car.
And funny you say that, John, because I was actually thinking when watching that scene that maybe it felt like Norris was written as he was there.
Yeah.
Because he's usually at those sort of events.
Yeah.
So I feel personally that it was written with Norris in mind. I don't know why he didn't appear in it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out throughout the week where Norris was. I've got no doubt that he'll be at the wedding. I've got no doubt he'll be at the wedding, and he will play a part in the week.
I feel like this is just the beginning of Norris, really.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he's been in the show for about 20 years.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can survive this without him.
No, I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, so that's the Norris scale.
That's the Norris scale. You'll be seeing that all of this week.
All of this week. There is a chance there will be no Norris this week because he doesn't seem to feature in any of the plot lines whatsoever.
But I think that's what's great about Norris. You can take him and put him in any storyline, and he can just make his way through all of them.
We could have done the same thing with Emily, but
I feel Norris has a bigger impact.
Yeah, same.
He's the better balance of comedy and stuff.
Okay.
So that's why we chose the Norris scale.
Norris scale. Okay, on to the next segment. Best burn.
Oh, it was a great deal!
There were a lot of burns.
I feel like we should explain the meaning of burn here, actually.
Okay, so what we've done is we've taken the word burn in two ways. So throughout the week, we might find our favourite part of maybe our favourite flame or fire from one of the episodes, because obviously we know it's Fire Week.
Yeah.
Or we could also use the term as in
to be an insult. So
to be an insult.
Tonight there was no fires, despite this being heavily advertised as Fire Week.
Fire Week, which we were disappointed in. So it's not technically all week.
No, it's fire. It's fire 4 days.
Yeah.
But right now we've had to go for some insults, and there are quite a few good ones to go around tonight, Dave.
there were.
I liked it when Sean said that he'll be sucking on a fisherman's friend about Lloyd.
So yeah, Amy. She made a comment about how she looks better than the Kim Kardashian, which
I also feel like the comments about Carla's flat were very interesting, especially seeing as it seems to be Tracy who will burn Carla's flat down.
Yeah, from what we can gather from the trailers and the previews, it definitely looks like Carla's apartment's going up in flames. But yeah, so I think that pretty much sums up Burn.
That sums up Best Burn. We hope this features better in the next coming days.
Yeah. This episode, considering there wasn't fire, we can't really...
Yeah. And also, this was just mainly an excuse for us to use a picture of Ashley Peacock in spandex, just being honest.
What's next, John?
Next is Richard Killman.
Richard Killman.
You should have stayed at the party, Maxine.
You know, sometimes when you're just watching Coronation Street, you're looking at the scene and you're thinking, I wish that character was dead.
I do, John. And that's why we created this segment,
Richard Killman.
That's why this segment is about which character we'd like to see Richard Hillman kill.
Specifically Richard Hillman. No other character. Specifically Richard Hillman. And not just because his name works as a pun title. So who would you kill, Dave?
Well, I'd personally like to see Richard Hillman kill Sean this episode. I felt that he was probably the weakest, probably getting involved a bit too much. I felt that he didn't have any impact on the story, and I felt maybe to make his involvement in this Fire Week a little bit better, let's kill him off.
I agree with you. I'd also say that up for killing is Julie. Now, I know she's a fan favourite. I know she's a bit quirky, but I think we need to kill her off. Purely because she was in the same role as Sean this episode, and they just both were there. And there was no reason for them to be there. You could have had almost any other character. Maybe insert a bit of Norris.
Yeah.
Insert a bit of Norris.
I felt that maybe the comments by Sean and stuff, if they were taken out, replaced with a bit of Norris, a bit more humour in it, maybe, and a little bit more... Norris is very good at narrating the story and helping people... Because obviously this week you're going to get a lot of people who haven't watched the soap before or haven't watched it in a long time. So Norris would have been key to help with the plot developments there.
I feel like Sean has reached that role now where he's like... He's a bit of a legend, but not in a good way. He's not... You don't watch it and you think, Sean. You watch it and you think, Sean?
Yeah, definitely.
Next segment, Fred or Alive.
You haven't lived, I say, you haven't lived till you've had one of my fillet steaks, medium rare, in a clear batter roll.
Okay. So, Fred or Alive. Now, this was a segment where we thought that during Fire Week, there's a possibility that someone could die, and we thought we'd discuss who could have died or potentially could die next episode from the plot that's happened. I saw maybe one part where Liz could have died, and this kind of leads into Fire Week. This was when she was smoking a cigarette and there was fabric surrounded her, and I thought, that's a bit of a fire hazard, John. Yeah. That's a bit of a fire hazard. That could have, potentially caused something there. So
I agree with that. I also feel like that could have also led to the deaths of Sean, cross our fingers, and Julie as well there, because they were talking about it all going up in flames. Now, this is a bit of foreshadowing for the rest of Fire Week, because why did they make a comment about fire?
I picked up on that as well. Yeah. I picked up on that comment, and I was like, something's about to happen. We knew something was going to happen.
Well, they've advertised it as Fire Week, let's be honest. So there's nothing really that can put us off the scent of fire.
Yeah.
Can you live with that for the rest of your life?
Well, Dave, why is there a wheel on the side of the screen?
I'm going to tell you, John. We're going to spin the wheel, and then whichever character appears on the wheel, we're going to discuss whether they'd rather spend a day in jail or a day with Gail.
So, to start off this episode, let's spin
that
the wheel.
Oh, I didn't expect it to be Liz.
I didn't expect it to be Liz, seeing as we've spoken about her a lot this episode already.
Yes. So basically, Liz be quite an interesting one. I personally think she'd rather spend a day with Gale.
I feel like Liz has already been to jail in the past. And I think most of Coronation Street has when I say that. I feel like she, at this point in time though, does she need a conversation with Gale?
I feel there's a lot on her plate. Gale has been cheated on in the past. She's been through some rough patches. I personally feel maybe a day with Gale wouldn't be so bad, John. Bit of therapy shopping, a bit of, discussing like
But
that.
the thing is, she wanted to get away from this Tony situation, Dave. Maybe she wouldn't really be able to spend a day with Gale right now. I feel like jail would be an easier way of her getting out of this problem.
Got one more segment, which is the episode rating. So for this one, we've decided, instead of using a star system or 5 out of 5 type thing, we'd go for cobbles, in which we'd rate the episode. Now, we both haven't discussed this beforehand, so it's going to be our honest opinion. I personally would give it 2 cobbles.
I think you're being a bit harsh on this episode there, Dave. I feel like I'd give it a 3 cobble, and I'll explain why. I feel like it sets things up. Sometimes the best episodes aren't the ones in which we have fire. They're not always the best ones. I mean, it is Fire Week. I expect fire at some point.
That's why I've given it 2. I felt there's been a lot of build-up, a lot of kind of these trailers and everything like that. Big week ahead. This was the night where they had to pull it out of the bag. They had to get the viewers to watch. And I don't feel they succeeded, and that's why I'm sticking with my 2 cobbles.
I'm going for 3. I feel like we had a little bit of development with the Leanne situation. Not that there was any development over the last few weeks. I feel like we had a little bit of development with Tracy telling Liz. That was a big key moment. It's going to set up so many future plot lines.
Yeah.
I feel like we also had quite a lot of interesting stuff with Kevin. It was nice to have that little bit of a palate cleanser from the whole Tracy-Liz fiasco. The only thing that I'd say there was a problem, not enough Tony. Now, Tony didn't feature in this episode at all.
Tony didn't appear at all.
And I mean, that does build our suspense for a bit more Tony.
I think we could even say that Tony could be behind the fire as well.
I feel like we don't know enough yet.
Because my theory is, if he starts the fire, tries to kill Carla, he can then, Liz is going to be upset. Maybe she hasn't finished all the paperwork yet to get the rover's return. Potentially,
I feel like
he could still...
You've missed out on some key points here.
Yeah.
Firstly, Liz seems to be over... what's his face?
Tony.
Seems to be over Tony. Secondly...
Yeah.
Tony understands now that he doesn't want the pub. He only wants it for Tracy. That's not going to happen. Thirdly, Carla ain't going to sell her share.
Okay. Now, I think from what you've said, I'm happy to give it 3 cobbles.
3 cobbles.
Should we go with 3 cobbles?
I think we should go for 3 cobbles.
So, we've given it 3 cobbles.
3 cobbles.
3 cobbles.
Now, that is pretty much it for this episode of John and Dave React to Coronation Street Fire Week. There will be one of these every night this week, and then never again.
Never again.
Apart from one random episode between now and September, and the live episode in September.
Yeah.
I feel like
that pretty much sums up episode 1. Yeah. So we'll see you tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place. Remember to hashtag John and Dave React to Coronation Street Fire Week.
Let's get it trending.
Follow us on Facebook.
Yeah.
And subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe.